Well, hello again to all the boys and girls out there in YouTube land watching. Georgia Beer Reviews back at you today with another one, and I'm so excited about this one, guys. I was gonna wait for a Stout Sunday to open this, but I just couldn't help myself. I went to Ace Growlers in downtown Noonan earlier today, and I picked up a growler, which is 64 ounces of the 2019 CBS, 11.3%, made by founders out of Michigan. I've had the CBS before. I had last year's version, which I reviewed on my channel. Never had this. I haven't had this year's version yet. It was just released a few weeks ago. I will do a review, a bottled review. I'm going to pick up a 4-pack next week, but they had it on draft, so I could not resist. It was $40 plus tax for the 64-ounce growler. The seal is still on it. I haven't opened it yet. I'm going to do that on camera for you guys. I've always loved CBS. Had it bought several bottles last year, which was the first year that I tried it, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it a perfect score, 100 out of 100, I believe. Which I try not to do too much anymore on my channel, just because there's always room for improvement. But you got to call it like you see it. I mean, it was such a great beer. I loved it. One of the best stouts I've ever had. So let's see if we can get this open. There we go. Got the seal off of it. Last year's version was 11.6%, so the ABV is a little bit different on this year's version. It is a maple syrup bourbon barrel aged imperial stout. Founders has always made great barrel aged beers, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and get into it. Nice little hiss. I didn't even do my dishes to pour this in my CBS glass. That's how excited I am about drinking this beer. Okay. There's the pour. Did not make a mess. All right, good deal. Nice black appearance, about a finger's worth of a creamy looking tan head. Let me seal this back up. I want to keep that nice and fresh. Okay. The aroma. Getting some dark chocolate. A touch of coffee. Nice bready notes on the aroma. Some dark toasted bread. A little bit of vanilla. I'm not getting as much maple that I did in the 2018 version, at least on the aroma. And the bourbon notes are not really coming through too much on the aroma, but the taste is where it's at. So without further ado, let's get to this brew. Cheers, guys. Velvety smooth. You're getting some dark chocolate, a little bit of coffee. Nice malt character with this. Nice and bready in the middle. Nice and roasty toasty. Dark toasted bread. Not charred, but very dark toasted bread. Little bit of the maple syrup is coming in on the back end, but it's definitely not as maple forward, as sweet as I remember it being last year, the 2018 version, which was also higher ABV, like I said, 11.6% alcohol. I'm not sure what the IBUs on this year's version is, but it does have a little bit of a bitterness on the finish. I am getting some coffee notes, which provide a little bit of bitterness, and then it just has, I guess, kind of a medium bitterness on the finish. It is malt forward though, and sweet with the chocolate, the caramel, the vanilla. The little bit of maple comes through on the finish, but it is more of a bitter finish than a malty finish, which is not a bad thing. It's very well balanced, more balanced than last year's version. Last year's version was a little bit more syrupy, thick on the mouthfeel. This one is not as thick. And this is the draft version. When I do the review of the bottle, I may get some different notes, but the draft versions are always a little bit different than the bottles and the cans, usually a little bit better. And I have to admit, this is pretty dang good. The more I sip on it, the more that maple's starting to come through and kind of build on the insides of my cheeks and linger a little bit more. But it's definitely not, it's still not as maple forward, as sweet as I remember last year's version being. With that said, it is excellent nonetheless. The roasty, toasty notes, the breadiness seems to be more of a factor this year, balances it out a little bit more than last year's version, as well as having the little bit more bitterness on the finish. Really complements the beer as well, just rounds it out very nicely. It's super smooth, like I said. The finish is just cream. It's got a creamy mouthfeel, creamy finish. The 11.3% is, I don't know. I don't know where it is. It's not in here. There's no 11.3% that I'm picking up in here. It tastes like a session stout. I will say the bourbon barrel notes are not really coming through as much as I remember them coming through on last year's version. So I would have liked there to have been a little bit more bourbon notes, because I am a big bourbon fan. I love bourbon barrel aged beers. So I'm not really getting that as much. The maple's coming through, but the bourbon barrel presence is really not as, it's not coming through as much as I remember it coming through on last year's version. The head is pretty much died down, but there is, see that little creamy glass lacing that's left behind when I swirl the glass around. It's a delightful beer. My only complaint really is the bourbon notes are not coming through quite as much, but everything, as I remember, but everything else is spot on. It's pretty much a world-class beer, guys. If you can find it on draft like this and pick up a growler, or go to a restaurant and they have it on draft, get you a serving of it there, I would definitely recommend it. It was worth every penny of the $40 plus tax that I spent on it. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it is a world-class beer. I'm going to go with a 98 for this year's version, and I will do a review of the bottled version of this, and we'll see if there's any difference in the bottled version versus the draft version. But 98 out of 100, an excellent, world-class beer, guys. Definitely worth checking out. Like I said, worth every penny. Highly, highly recommend it. I'm so glad that I was able to pick up a growler today. So that'll do it for this beer review, guys. I hope you're all having a great day. And until next time, everybody, cheers.